Welcome to Be Smart by Jared Dillian. How not to be an idiot with your money. So if you woke up and looked at the price of Bitcoin and said, man, this Bitcoin thing seems to be catching on. Maybe I'll buy some Bitcoin. I have some words for you. If you do that, you know what you are? You are the caboose. You could have bought Bitcoin at any point in the last 10 years. I mean, it's been around for a while. You've probably heard of it before. And they listed a Bitcoin ETF, and now it's in the news, and you're like, oh shit, maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. You're the caboose. You're the last one into the trade. These are the type of people that bought home builders in 2005. They bought internet stocks in 1999. How do you know if you're the caboose? If you have to ask, you probably are. Anyway, you might have heard that somebody launched a Bitcoin ETF. Well, it's not precisely a Bitcoin ETF. It's a Bitcoin futures ETF. It doesn't hold Bitcoin. It holds Bitcoin futures. And yes, there are futures on Bitcoin, which were listed a couple of years ago. It's a little bit complicated to explain the difference between a Bitcoin ETF and a Bitcoin futures ETF, so we'll leave that alone for now. Just know that if you own a Bitcoin futures ETF, it's going to be a little bit more expensive to hold over time. Now, this ETF got to $1 billion of assets in 2 days, which is a record for an ETF. That's never happened before. The closest we got before was gold, GLD, which was launched in 2005, and it got to $1 billion in assets in 3 days. Both fantastic innovations. Okay. Now, I guess a lot of people, they've been waiting. They've been waiting for years to buy a Bitcoin ETF. They wouldn't invest in Bitcoin, but they're going to buy a Bitcoin ETF. Well, you missed out on $60,000 of appreciation. You should have bought it before when it was just Bitcoin. That's what I did. You could have bought it at $30,000, $20,000, $10,000, $5,000. You could have bought it at any point along the way. It's not that hard, you know? I mean, because this was back in 2019. And I wanted to invest in Bitcoin, and I was asking people, I was like, how do I do this? And they said, well, there's a number of exchanges, but the best and most reliable one is Coinbase. So why don't you give Coinbase a try? So I got the Coinbase app and put it on my phone, and I figured out how to transfer money from my bank, and I figured out how to buy Bitcoin. It wasn't that hard, you know? So you could have done that. You could have done that in 2019, 18, 17, 16. You could have done that at any point along the way. No, you waited for a Bitcoin ETF to come out, and you bought Bitcoin at $66,000. Congratulations. You are the caboose. But, you know, maybe not. I mean, if you talk to the Bitcoin people, they say it's going to 100,000, and maybe it will. That's only like a 50% move from here. You know, Bitcoin moves around like 5% a day. I mean, could get there very quickly. Some of these people think it's going higher than that. They think it's going to 1 million. Man, I don't know. Let me put it this way. Its sentiment is a little bit hot. Okay. People are a little overly enthusiastic about Bitcoin at this point. Now, if you talk to the Bitcoin guys, and by the way, if you want to talk to them, just go on Twitter. They're very busy on Twitter. They all have Bitcoin in their profile. It says Bitcoin. And they all say they will never sell. They'll never sell, ever. They'll never sell Bitcoin. Because what they believe is that some point Bitcoin will become the currency in the US or globally, and we'll all be using Bitcoin. And it's going, there's 21 million Bitcoins divided by, 7 billion people in the world. We're all going to have Bitcoin, and they're going to be like trillionaires. That's what they think. Okay. Maybe I have an open mind. Okay. I have an open mind, but they say it will never sell. Let me just make a statement about that. Everything goes to zero eventually. Everything goes to zero. And I'm not just talking about because the sun turns into a red giant and it swallows up the earth. Yeah, that's going to happen eventually. Everything will go to zero. I mean, before then, things go to zero. GE, General Electric, was in the Dow Jones Industrial Average for 100 years. Stock was in there for 100 years. Then it gets kicked out of the Dow. And someday, maybe sometime soon, it's going to go bankrupt. It's going to go to zero. GE, a stock that's been around for 100 years, is going to go bankrupt. Which means that everything is a trade. Everything is meant to be sold at some point. Doesn't matter what it is. You know, I've been holding gold for 15 years. It's been a big part of my portfolio, and I've done very well on it. Someday, there is going to be a time to sell gold. For sure. But you talk to the gold bugs, you talk to the gold people, and they're like, I'm never selling. I'm not selling until we revalue gold to $40,000. And no. There's a time to sell everything. Even Bitcoin, you douchebags. There's going to be a time to sell Apple. Apple's an expensive stock, and their business, I don't know, kind of sucks right now. They can't sell phones. I mean, there's going to be a competitor. There's going to be a different technology than smartphones. I don't know when, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But the point is there's going to be a time to sell Apple. There's going to be a time to sell Amazon. There's going to be a time to sell Tesla. All these things. Doesn't go up forever. Nothing goes up forever. Everything goes to zero eventually. Speaking of Tesla, and this is off topic, but I was reading the other day about Elon Musk. So Elon Musk is worth about $200 billion. He's the richest person in the world. And people are speculating that someday he might be worth $1 trillion, which is insane. I mean, if you think the class warfare stuff that we're dealing with now is bad, wait until we have a guy that is a trillionaire. Okay, so just imagine when that is going to happen. But the point is that he's not going to become a trillionaire on Tesla. That's very unlikely. It's hard to do. He might become a trillionaire on SpaceX. That 20 years from now might be an enormous business. And right now, SpaceX has a $100 billion valuation, which seems low to me. I would buy that until my head caves in. 10 years from now, SpaceX might be a $10 trillion company. I mean, the possibilities. And by the way, if SpaceX has a $100 billion private valuation, can you imagine what the valuation would be if it went public? It would be an orgy. It would be a food fight. It'd be at least $500 billion. It'd be massive. So if that thing goes public, I am buying it for sure. Doesn't matter what the price is. Now, I know I'm getting off topic here, but I'm on a roll. So imagine if you were an early investor in SpaceX. What does it take to be an early investor in SpaceX? Well, you have to have a lot of Silicon Valley connections. You have to be pretty plugged in, and you need to be rich. And I don't know this at all. I would be shocked if Peter Thiel is not an early investor in SpaceX. He's in everything early. So if you have connections, if you have money, you can get involved in these companies. But SpaceX is still a private company. I can't buy it. You can't buy it. We can't buy it. We can't take advantage of the appreciation. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Everything will go to zero eventually. And there's all different styles of investing. Growth people buy stuff that is going up. Value people buy stuff that is beaten down. Value people buy stuff that is on the way to zero, hoping for a rebound. It's a style of investing. So the question is, what style of investor are you? Now, I used to be a value investor, and what I did when I was at Lehman Brothers is I would look at every single chart in the S&P 500 charts, and I look for the ones that were going down, the ones that were in the lower right-hand corner, and I would play for a bounce. That's what I would do. Some people do the opposite. Some people buy the stuff that is in the upper right-hand corner. They buy high and sell higher. Nowadays, I do a combination of the two, which I think is the right approach. So you should figure out what kind of investor you are and get better at it and recognize that different investing styles go in or out of favor. David Einhorn, terrific guy, legendary value investor. He's had a tough run the last few years. Cathie Wood, legendary growth investor, and she's on the cover of every newspaper and magazine. I'm going to give you a definition. There's a word called non-stationarity. Non-stationarity. The financial markets exhibit a property known as non-stationarity. And that means the markets are a game where the rules are constantly changing. Okay. So imagine you're playing chess, and in the middle of the game, the rules change. Bishops don't go diagonally. They go up and down in the middle of the game. That's what the markets are like. That's what investing is like. And the goal is to fly at 30,000 feet and keep an eye on when investing styles go in or out of favor. There was an article about Lloyd Blankfein the other day, who used to be the CEO of Goldman Sachs. He was a trader. Most of the Goldman guys go on to government service. When I say the Goldman guys, I mean like the executives. So Hank Paulson went on to be Treasury Secretary, Gary Cohn, John Corzine, Robert Kaplan, Dallas Fed president. Blankfein hasn't done that. Yeah, he's retired. You know how he passes the time? He's trading. He's trading up a storm. He's a degenerate trader of stocks and bonds and currencies and commodities, and he's having a blast at 67 years old. Good for him. Okay, now he is a billionaire, so he's got a lot more ammo than you or me. And if I was a billionaire, I would really have a lot of fun trading. So he gets up, makes some eggs, walks over to the computer, starts punting around $100 million a dollar yen. It's amazing. And government service is way overrated. And all the guys that I mentioned, Paulson, Gary Cohn, John Corzine, Robert Kaplan, they all got way more than they bargained for. And they were not happy. I'm a trader. It's in my DNA. And once a trader, always a trader. Once you're a pickle, you can't go back to being a cucumber. Once you're a trader, you look at the world in a different way. And the truth is, we are all traders, or at least we should be. You know, there's a book coming out next year, and the title is awesome. The title is Never Stop Buying. Oh yeah, there's going to be a time to stop buying, and we actually might be pretty close. Thanks for listening to Be Smart. See you next time.